my goodness, it's Wednesday afternoon, 3:30 already.
It is.
It is.
Boom.
Nuts. Where
Time
does the day go?
is flying and flying and flying. But that's
Sure
okay.
is. Yeah, quick. So, hopefully everybody can hear us and
Everything's working
everything
okay.
is working. My laptop had a meltdown, so.
And I changed all the settings on mine, so this could be a good fun hour.
Right. You gotta love it when that happens.
So we are we're gonna have some searching fun and some hopefully not installing blowing up fun.
No, that would be bad.
That would be bad, but you know, we're live, so that's probably what'll happen. Awesome. Thanks, Shirley. Appreciate that. So
should be
wonderful. Oh, hey Tucker. It's popping up again. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Sidebar. No.
All right. All right. So, okay, good. Looks like everybody can hear us.
Wonderful.
And,
so something's working right. That's a positive thing.
Yes.
So we've got some things set up. We changed like the mode of, so hopefully, remember, I don't know if you guys remember how bright the screen was last time. It was a little bit hard to see some things. So we went to dark mode. I don't know if it's going to help. You guys can let us know whether that's better, worse, or don't do that again or whatever. So we are certainly attempting, but.
Hello from Spicewood. That's a cool name.
Spicewood. Yeah. I like that. I could live there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Is it spicy?
I
feel like everything in Texas is probably more spicy than it is on my table.
Without you thinking, even trying. Yes, you have to be careful what you order when you're in Texas because something isn't necessarily normally spicy. It could come very spicy, and you just aren't aware.
Yeah,
Ask me how I know that.
I know, right? I totally feel like if I just think about spice, I start sweating. So I have like no spice tolerance whatsoever.
I have like that much.
I think you have to build it, and apparently I can't get past the first time. So
I'm like,
no.
Pepper's all I can take, right?
Yeah. It's got to be red, yellow, or orange peppers because those don't have spice.
No, I meant like black pepper.
Oh yeah, I thought you were talking about like jalapeno. No jalapeno for me.
No. You know what I do for jalapenos when I have something that calls for jalapenos? I have a jar of jalapenos in my fridge.
Yeah. Just use the juice.
I use the juice, and then when I use the juice, I just fill it up with water, and while it's sitting there, it spices the water, so now it's juice. So it works very well.
I guess so, yeah.
You get a little something without dying.
Yeah.
And I don't have to touch any jalapenos and cut them to put them in anything.
Bonus.
Because that could be a problem.
Right.
But yeah, that's my little recipe hack on the jalapeno.
All right.
So today,
everybody, we've got Michigan, and Utah, and
Texas, and North Carolina,
all kinds of places.
I like North Carolina. I need to go back to North Carolina, visit, see where I was born.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember that.
Too long ago.
It was a hot second ago.
Gotta get duck donuts when you go.
I gotta get whom?
Duck donuts.
Duck donuts.
Oh, so good.
Good to know.
Oh, Miss Wisconsin.
And Miss Wisconsin there. Yep.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. We are going to talk about fonts today.
Yeah, what the font?
What the font? So, what is the font? The trick when it comes to softwares is there is built-in, hi Mom, and there is brought in.
Yes.
They do not come out equally.
No.
And there is a vast difference between the two. And as long as...
To Texas Hill Country. Nice.
That sounds lovely. That sounds better than snow. Of course, I think it's even snowed in parts of Texas. So who knows? Anyway, a brought-in font is something that is typically called a true type font. There are other file extensions that softwares don't generally read.
Yes.
So that would be like an open type font. That is the most common other one.
They are not the same thing.
They are not. So there's an OTF and a TTF. TTF stands for true type font.
Yeah.
OTF stands for open type font. A lot of times when you download a font or you purchase a font that is then downloaded,
you might get both.
You might get both, or you might get one or the other.
Yes.
If it is only an OTF, your software will probably not read it. So I hope you didn't spend a lot of money on it because it's probably not going to be able to be played with.
Right. Right.
Now your Windows programs and whatnot, that's different. We're
Yeah.
talking embroidery programs more specifically.
Yes.
You're going to install them in all the same place,
Right.
but what programs can use what
Yes.
is a little bit different.
So the pro of having a true type font is that when we put it in our computer and we open it through our software, we can type.
We can type.
When we purchase an embroidery font, the
Yep.
machine,
So I purchased an A that was 3 inches tall, and
Right.
a B that was
Or
3 inches,
a
or
whole
whatever,
a whole
and a whole
alphabet.
alphabet. Yep.
I have to put them in one at a time.
Yep. I import the A.
Yes.
I import the B.
Now, a lot of software does have something called like mapping. So you can map that to something else. And that's a little more advanced text. And we're not covering that part.
Yep. We're not going to go
right
there.
now.
So specifically, Floriani has a pretty good program for that.
Yep.
I looked at it once and went, yeah, that's more than
Yep.
I'm good with just downloading my fonts. I'm going to go with that.
Right.
Not that it's not doable.
Yep.
It was
It's
more
just
than
one
I
more thing.
personally wanted to get into. But they have a pretty good program for that. So there's programs that are specifically designed for that, but you have to have that mapping option
Yeah, I
to go that direction.
PE11 also maps.
It does.
So the PE or palettes both map. But again, we're going to be talking about free fonts, true types, pros and cons, and how to like open them in the software. So that's going to fill up a lot of time.
Well, why would I ever want to go buy a font? Why can't I just use what's in the programs?
Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, if you're using a free type font, you don't have like you can't just save a design with it, sell it, right? You don't have the license to do that. So that's not part of that. But also because sometimes the free fonts don't work out as well as something that is made. Now, that's not always the case. And we're going to talk about some of the things that you can look at to help you kind of like determine whether or not this font is appropriate. And if for personal use, you got like all kinds of choices.
Yeah, free reign, pretty much.
But commercial thing is a completely different beast. And we're not really talking about what to make with these fonts to sell commercially. We're talking about like for yourself.
Yes. So if you are somebody that's sitting there and like, well, I'm here because I do commercial and I want to be able to do that. If that's the case, there are definitely places that you can purchase fonts that you can get the commercial license to be able to use that.
Yes.
But you need to make sure that you're doing that so that you're following everybody's rules. And you want to be fair to the person that created that because they did work to get it there. So you have to be fair to them and give them their props. So for sure. So that is an option. We're just not going to really get into it a whole lot.
Right.
But it is something that you can check out there.
And we have a couple questions. So embroiderance with BX fonts, that's a completely different beast. Again, we're not talking about that part. We're talking about regular true type fonts. BX fonts is something that you can get when you purchase a font for special software like embroiderance.
Yep.
And does BES map? I do not believe BES
I don't believe
maps.
there's a mapping program built into that.
No.
So sorry. Okay, so a built-in font, and depending upon which software you have dived into,
Yes.
is going to come with a different number of options
Yep.
and a different number of actual fonts.
Yes.
So those fonts are actually digitized so that instead of just being a fill stitch that fills everything in, it actually follows the curves of letters and things like that. So it was designed to look like the letter E or the letter O instead of just a shape that we're filling stitches in.
Right.
So that is one of the advantages of using a built-in is that it's going to stitch well and it's going to follow the curves and things of the letters. You're going to generally get a little bit nicer look from those built-ins.
Yeah, for sure.
Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that they're built into your software.
Right.
Of course, you and I, we like fonts, so the ones that are built into the software are not enough.
They don't generally do it for me.
No.
It is very rare that I find what I'm looking for in those. Very, very specific. If you have someone that requests a
Certain type of font.
fill in the blank
Right.
font, this is the font that my logo was done in. You are then able to go out, download that specific font, and then when you type it in, it will look like it's supposed to in their logo or whatever. So that's
Right.
an advantage of a TrueType font.
Which is sometimes easier than trying to manually
Oh,
digitize
goodness.
some letters.
I don't like manually digitizing letters.
it's not a lot of
That's on my no-go list. So.
Try another font.
Maybe it is, now Disney in particular, those are usually copyrighted. So you have to purchase that in an appropriate place to get like a movie font or something like that. And again, you can't sell anything with that, even if you've purchased it. But those, sometimes there's a very specific look that we're going for.
Yeah.
One of the first fonts that I like had to go and find was the Harry Potter font. So
Right.
my nephew wanted a shirt that had the whole solemnly swear I'm up to no good with the
Exactly.
footprints and all of
Yeah.
that. Well, I needed the lightning bolts and everything in there. And I didn't even know how to create that, like which letters are which and all of that. So I literally did a Google search and searched for the Harry Potter font,
Right.
downloaded it, installed it, and used it.
Yes.
So that is a very specific need
Yes.
that you can then go find something. It's very rare that you have that specific of a need.
True.
But like when I did Samantha's wedding things, all of her stuff she had in one font. So I went and I downloaded that font, and then everything I did matched what everything she did.
Right.
So there's times where a specific font is as a necessity. But if you're like me and Sarah, you might just like fonts
Yeah.
in general, and you just want them all because they're fun. And you really like words in general. So you do a lot of
Like the subway
the
art.
subway
type.
art things where you have lots of words
In
in different fonts
fonts.
coming into each other to build
Yep.
a whole front of your bag or whatever it
Yep.
happens to be.
Yep.
So having a wide range, and maybe there's a theme. So they're all blocks, but they're not all the same block.
Right.
Or they're all handwriting swirls.
Right.
Or, you can do all of those types of things.
Yep.
So having an idea of what you're looking for is generally better than, oops, if I could turn those off one of these days. So having that plan when you go to look
Yep.
is helpful, because otherwise there's a big rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So speaking of rabbit hole, let's pop over here. And this is a website called Dafont, DAFONT.com. And this is a free download option. Across the top up here, you can choose like a type, or you can just choose like all and just have it go random and so on and so forth. So I think we're in a hand type right now, but if we go into fancy and I click on cartoon, excuse me, these are the ones that specifically pop up for cartoon. Let's see. Should we try groovy? Because
Yeah.
we've got the 80s coming up here. So we've got some groovy looking things here. Now maybe I really like this low star one right here, kind of a little below center. If I like that one, I can just go over here. It says free for personal use. That means I can do whatever I want with it as long as I'm not selling it.
Right.
So that tells you right there what your rules are for that particular font. If I like it, I click download, it goes to my downloads folder.
Yes.
So if I'm still not sure, we can keep going. Oh, that's really cute.
That is really cute.
So let's say I want that one. Why not?
Yep. Hit
We
the
got to
download
start
button.
somewhere.
Right.
I click download and it goes to my downloads folder. So I don't know if you guys saw that little thing shoots up here. And there is the Tropyland font. There's a little zip folder that went into my downloads. So I've downloaded my font.
Yep.
So I could just go use it now, right?
Yeah.
Nope. Nope.
Now
Now there's another step. So I'm going to minimize my, actually I'm going to get rid of this too. Nope. Because they won't see anything that I loaded afterwards. So what I'm doing is I'm actually closing the windows that I already have open, because if you download a new font and you already had your software open, it won't find the new ones as you load them. So you have to load it with everything already in your folder.
Yes.
Prior to. So you said what folder? Let's talk about that. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my file explorer. So I'm all the way down at the bottom down here. You can see the little black box that popped up, and I'm going to click on that manila folder.
Yep.
And that's going to pop up. So what I have, I've got my quick access pieces that come up over here. Down the left-hand side, I have basically everything that's in my computer. I already said that when I click on that, my computer is automatically set up to just dump everything in downloads. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and here is that Tropyland zip file. So download it
now.
But it's not actually in my computer.
Right.
It's just the files have been downloaded.
Right. So a lot of people don't know what to do with this little file. This file is zipped. And basically, if you think about like, I like to explain
bag.
it like your suitcase, right? You've got it compressed down, it's zipped, and then you have to unzip it in order for everything to sort of spring out.
And then all of your clothes pop out that you sat on.
They pop out.
That's what happens.
So this is the number one thing that people do wrong. They copy and paste like this folder, or they open this folder, but they don't actually take the stuff out.
Right. It's still in the zip folder.
Right.
So if you just copied this folder, let's say these were embroidery designs, and we just put it on our USB, just like this.
Yep.
Absolutely nothing's going to happen when you get to your machine.
Nope.
Because our machines are unable to read zip folders. You have to open zip folders to get the information out of them first, no matter what it is that you're doing.
Right.
So how do we open that? Most computers these days, we just double click on it.
Yes.
Back in the old days, you actually had to have software installed in your computer to open them. That is not the case anymore. Everything can open a zip folder. We literally double click. And by double click, I'm using my first finger, my left button on my mouse, and I'm going to double click, and boom, here is my my file that was in there.
You're peeking inside.
I'm peeking inside the suitcase.
Right.
So this suitcase was not overloaded.
No.
It's not blowing up on us with all of the different things. There's only one actual file in there. So sorry. So fortunately, this does say true type font because I wasn't paying any attention when we clicked download.
Right.
So if this said open type font, I could still install it on my computer, but I wouldn't be able to use it in my software.
Right.
So to actually install this, there's no drag and drop or anything like that, which a lot of people think that's what they're going to do. They just drag this where they think it's going to go. What we need to do is, again, double click, and it shows you what those are going to look like. So this is different size. So in your Windows file, if you had a font size of 12, this is what that first line is what it would look like, and so on and so forth. So it's all there, and you can see how big it would look with different things. So that's why you have all those different lines. It's just showing you different sizes of those.
Yes.
The top section up here is what each individual piece looks like. Okay. So if I want this to go into my computer, I hit this crazy word called install.
Right.
So it just turned kind of blue up at the top of the screen there. There's a little box. I'm going to come off of it. It's going to turn blue again. All right. So that is the install. Anytime you download a font, you open the zip folder, you open the file, you'll get this window, and then you go up at the top and you click on install. And it automatically installs it. And it will automatically install it in the same place every time.
Yes.
All right. So where's that? So if you are like me, I have a ton of fonts in here. And yes, you can have too many fonts installed on your computer.
Yes. Most computers natively put this in the correct spot.
Yes, you don't have to do anything.
So you don't, once you hit the install button, it goes to the appropriate folder, and you never have to go in there unless you need to delete some because you've collected too many.
So you can put more in.
Right.
Like I do. I don't know. So I'm very good at where this goes because I go there often. So we've already hit install. Notice it's grayed out. So if I hover over it again, it doesn't turn blue anymore because we've already done it, and the computer knows that. So we don't have to do anything else. I can just close this window. At this point, I could actually go in and just delete this file because there's nothing I need for it anymore. There's absolutely nothing I need with that. So I can clear up the memory If I've got 30 of these, I can install it, delete it, install it, and then you don't have to worry, now, did I do that one?
So nice.
Anything like that. So once you're done with it, just get rid of it. You do not need to keep it. There's nothing in that folder that your computer needs to use that font.
Nope.
So where did it go? It's not as confusing as one might think. I'm looking down on the left-hand side of my screen over here. I'm going to go to my C drive, which is basically your hard drive. I'm going to click on that. And that's going to pop up with all of the main things that are in your computer. One of those, assuming you're in Windows, because Mac will look a little bit different, of course, is your Windows folder. In your Windows folder, I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. There's this crazy folder called fonts.
Crazy.
It's a crazy folder. Mine's crazy. I don't know about yours, but mine's pretty crazy. I'm going to double click on the Windows font folder. And boom, here we go. These are just the beginnings. I'm still in B's.
You're still an ace. Oh, there we go.
Now we're in C.
Yeah.
So it gives you a little preview of what each different font looks like. So when I run out of room and I have to come delete something, I'm not blindly deleting. I can see, all right, well, I don't really like that one. I thought it was going to, but blah, blah. I can delete that or whatever. But what I'm looking for was Troppy something, right? Like, what was it called? I'm scrolling down. Sorry, I have way too many. Way too many. Freezing up my computer. R, S. Almost there. Now watch, it had some stupid letter in front of it, right? T.
There it is.
There we go. So there is Troppy Land. It is right here. It's got a little blue box popping up around it. I'm not sure how well you guys can see that, but it is the bottom row there, second from the right. So that is installed already because we did that install. If I double click on it, it's going to show me that same window. And I can print that out. So if I wanted a printout of everything I had, I could do that. For me, that would be a lot of pieces of paper.
Yep.
I thought about doing that once upon a time. And then I decided that was not the brightest thing for me to do. So I didn't do it. But you can see what it would look like. You do not need to do what I just did.
No.
This has nothing to do with actually functioning. I just wanted you to know where it went.
Yep.
And if you get to be like me and have too many, you would need to come in here and delete some so that you could add more.
Right.
So do you remember what happens to your computer when you have too many?
Yep, the software doesn't open very well. The computer kind of has a meltdown. Anything that uses font.
Anything that uses font. So when you open your Word document and it's just spinning and spinning and spinning, it's because it's trying to load all of those fonts and it's struggling. You have too many in there. So literally my software would freeze. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, oh, I think it's my fonts. And sure enough, I deleted some fonts and everything started running well. So recap real fast. We are going to back out of here real quick. We are going to go to download. You're going to double click on your zip folder. You're going to click on install and it's going to automatically go into your Windows font folder. If you need to go hunt that down, you're going to go down on the left, go to C, go to Windows, and then go to fonts, and then everything that you have would be in there. But again, that is not necessary for what we're talking about. I'm going to just close this window. We're going to go back to the beach for a second because it's so much nicer there than it is outside. And we are now going to open some software. So again, if I already had software open, it's not reading my folder, my font folder, every time I go to click on a font. It only reads that when it opens. So only whatever you had in there when you opened the software will show up in the software. So let's start with PE because that's where we were last week. So let's just pick up where we left off last time. So I've got an 8x12 space. That is really bright. I'm sorry. I tried to dim everything as much as I could, but okay. Up at the top, I've got my text. I'm going to select my A and I'm going to click in my box in the center here. And now I'm going to just type whatever. All right. And then I'm going to hit the enter key and boom, it becomes a font. I'm going to make that bigger so you guys can see as much as possible. All right. I purposefully made those last four all caps, just so that you can see the differences. You should pay attention to that because your uppers and your lowers are going to look different. And if you have a real scripty font, all uppercase doesn't generally work.
No.
It just looks like a hot mess.
And like Lisa's L and my S, like they don't always look super nice. Like
No.
those are like good letters to put on if you are trying to figure out
Which,
yeah.
yep. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we have I really like the L in this font. I'll put the L in that font and then I'll put the rest in another font. So you can mix and match fonts too. Because there are some L's that I just hate. And the same thing with S's.
Yeah.
They look like the number 8 instead of an S or, whatever. So depending upon what something looks like, you can bounce around. Absolutely.
J's and K's, yep. So when I download anything, it stays in a temporary folder. How do I get rid of the temporary files?
So there is a system in everybody's computer to actually get rid of temporary files. And those are created lots of different reasons. I don't recommend deleting them like every day because sometimes you need something that's in that temporary thing. But by all means, you can get quite a cache of memory taken up with temporary files. You can do a search down at the bottom in your search bar, just do temp files, and it'll come up and it'll show you where those are and you can then delete them. The trash can is not actually temporary files. They're still in there until you empty your trash. So just because I hit the trash can doesn't mean that it actually deleted it off my computer. It moved it to my trash can.
And depending on how often your computer is set up to empty your trash, that could sit in there for a very long time, which could also be one of the things that is bogging down your computer and how fast it runs. Because if you have very little free space in memory, then it's going to struggle to do those different things. So most people's trash is scheduled to auto delete, like say every 30 days or something like that. So it's not going to happen immediately, but after something's been in there that long, it'll automatically get deleted. You can change that. We're not going to get into that today, but it is not that complicated to do. So you could go down to your search and look into your settings. It should be able to be found in there. Okay, so I have true type and then fonts is all in capitals. In PE, right next to my A, which is up at the top, I actually have all of my fonts. So if you can read that, and I know it's super bright, so I apologize. It says 001 ABC Surf 01, and then it has a size. So that size is more about where it's ideally going to be stitched at instead of anything else. But 001 this is the first of a built-in, because it has a number, it is a built-in font that is part of my program. And again, this is specifically how PE or palette is set up. The other ones are a little bit different, and we'll open one of those in just a second. So if I click on that drop down, so here's number 1, and then it obviously goes down, so 17 is at the bottom. If I scroll, everything with a number there is a built-in font. If you saw, there was a few things up at the top that were a little bit different. Those are ones that I probably used the last time I was in here because that's what pops up there generally as the last used or that kind of thing. And you can see that some of those have the letters TT there instead of a number. Can you guess what TT stands for? True type.
Imagine that. So if I want to find my true type fonts to be able to choose from, I have to scroll down past my numbers, and version 11 does come with a pretty good number. We have 120 built-in fonts, which is a lot. All right, and then I'm going to get, that's some good English right there, into the TT options. And you do see a preview, which is nice. All right, so if it has all capital letters, but my word didn't have all capital letters in it, what does that mean?
It means it's not available.
It means there's only capital letters in that font. So sometimes you'd also see things with boxes. That means that there is nothing to fill in for that. Let me see if there was one up here. I know I saw. So that means that it's not going to fill in anything for that. So that only had capital letters. There is not even a capital letter for a lowercase letter, which some of the other ones had. So I'm going to scroll back down real quick. I think I just confused somebody, I bet. All right, so what do I mean by a capital letter for a small letter? So this here, the R-U-E looks like a capital letter, but it's not. It's actually a lowercase letter. It's just probably slightly shorter, or maybe it's got a slightly different curve at the end of the R or something like that than the actual capital R. So those can be a lot of fun, but you have to pay attention to what it is that you have.
Right.
So what I'm looking for.
And they're alphabetical in here.
Yep.
We picked one with a T, so we got a little scrolling.
We got a little scrolling to do here. So this is what I don't know if you heard me mention, there's probably a letter in front of it. Watch. Sometimes there's a letter in front of what the actual name of the font is. So if you can't find it, slow down a little bit and actually read instead of just scrolling. But I can see what all of these might look like as a test even before I change anything, which is kind of nice. I like the ability to get a little bit of a peek as to what that would look like. I'm on the M's. I'm getting there. Can only scroll so fast. R, S, almost. A lot of S's. Lots of S's. All right. Choppy. All right, so here's our Tropyland font. Took us a second to get there because I have so many. So isn't it advantage to have as many as I have? Honestly, I have too many. I really need to pare them down of, I like this one better than this one. Let's get rid of one. But that takes time and I don't have that.
Right.
So, but there's a lot of them in there.
I was going to say the other thing that's different for you is because you do a lot of scan and cut stuff, which different fonts play better with scan and cuts than they do embroidery.
If you're creating a cut file, you don't have to worry about stitch quality.
Right.
So you can get a thinner line and it will come out just fine. And maybe that's actually what you're looking for is a real scripty, scrolly font that from an embroidery standpoint is going to look like crap. But from a cutting standpoint out of vinyl or something, it's going to look great.
Fine. Right.
So that's why I have so many is mostly to do in cut files.
Yes.
I don't do as many. If I can find one in embroidery that's built in, I use it. Unfortunately, I don't do that much of fonts and embroidery anymore. Okay, so I'm going to click on the Tropyland, and here we go. So this T and this T are the same, but if this one was a lowercase, it's probably going to look a little bit different. It would probably be a smaller version of that, right? I don't have any letters that are the same. Is that not funny? Of course not. So let's take, and now I'm going to type font with lowercase. All right. And if I put that right over the other one, you can see they're not the same. It's just not the same. So even though that kind of it's smaller, you can see. So this is where we were talking about uppercase sometimes looks the same as the lowercase, but they might be slightly different sized or something like that. So fonts are tons of fun. All right. In Brother or Baby Lock, Palette or PE, you choose your font type from the A button. And then you can change those different pieces. One of the things I really like, and this has totally got nothing to do with TrueType fonts, but one of the things I really like about the fonts in Brother and Baby Lock, I do like an outline around my letters, and it's super easy to do here. All I have to do is say I want a running stitch, and let me see if I can zoom in on that some. What just happened?
You zoomed out.
There we go. I grabbed the minus. I thought I grabbed the little guy there. All right, so you can see the blue line around the outside edge there. That is a running stitch, as is listed up here. To do that in another software, you actually have to have a font that was programmed as a true color font to be able to do that, or you have to draw it.
Yeah, or you have lots of finagling
or
to do.
You have to do like copy it twice, and I mean it's just it's not simple.
No,
and it is so simple in here. They do it beautifully. I can choose a zigzag stitch, and I get a nice satin. So if I change my view, and it's going to take probably, all right, so you can see that nice bold. That'd look really sharp on something, right? I could change the thickness of that line.
Right.
I can play with, so it's very, very simple to do. Again, this is not the point of today's class, but I just wanted to point it out since we were in here. That
Yeah.
is one of the huge advantages of this software.
So because you have the ability to increase your screen, zoom in on like this section right here, and then that section over there on the F, so they can see a little bit of how
it's changing the direction.
well, this is why you wouldn't pick this one.
Right. Let's see if I can. I'm so used to the other one where you scrolling up does that. This one moves it. So
Oh, I thought maybe just
you can kind of see the line here. It doesn't quite know which direction to go.
right.
So you're getting some extra stuff in there. It's trying to do that curve, but it's overfilling it, right? I want to say it was on, and I'm in 3D mode, which takes a second to load. So you can see the same things here. You can see a very clear definition of the top bar. You see some overlapping that you might not really want. The same thing with the N, it just totally changes direction. And maybe that's the look that you want. And if it is, great. But you do want to look, so this one is much more definite of,
Right.
you wouldn't like the way that looked, most likely when it was stitching it out.
Right. And one of the things that happens, you can learn a lot about how the stitch is going to look by using the true view of this and making that a little bit bigger. All software has some sort of true view thing on there, and you really need to look at this part. If it looks funny in this true view,
it's going to look funny when it stitches.
Funny.
Yep.
So this is too big for this particular font. Like, you might be able to shrink it down,
and it wouldn't look that bad.
Some of that will go away.
Yep.
But keep in mind that the software sees these as shapes. So it doesn't really know how to make a transition from your F. It doesn't know how to go
around the corner.
It doesn't know how to do that round corner. It doesn't know how to graduate that in. It doesn't know how to like smooth that. It doesn't know about
it's just filling in the space.
It's just filling in those spaces. So those are types of things that you're going to look at. But Colleen asked, how do you know how large you can make a font and have it sew well? The only real way you're going to know is to
look at it and to sew it out.
Yes. So there are fonts that I use a lot in different things. And what I did when I was playing around with those is I would actually stitch them out. I would use their font name. So I would type in that word, and I would put all of the different fonts in there, and then I would stitch them out. And if that was terrible, that one that you
got rid of it.
I'm not going to do that one because now I know how that goes.
Yep.
Sometimes you can go in and edit these pieces.
So if you are talented in your software and you are
Right.
comfortable actually editing the stitch points and things, you could change the direction of the stitch as it's coming around this F. You could move some of the stitch points and actually get in there and do that. I don't personally want to take that much time on a font. If it's not going to work, I don't want to do. I'm just going to find a different one.
Right.
But you certainly could if this was the font you had to use because this is the font that so-and-so said this is my logo
Right,
or
right.
whatever, then you certainly could take more time and do that. But in general, if it's going to give you a blip like that, I'm just not going to use it.
Right, right. And your machine will attempt to do satin stitches that are larger than they should be.
Yep.
In a font. When you're creating something, it typically will give you some like, your satin stitch, you try to change it to a step fill or something like that. And you do have some ability to change that here. Like
Absolutely.
we could take that satin part out and do like a step fill or like fill stitch or some other version of it, which will give you a better looking design.
That is much cleaner than what we had before. But it's also going to look really different stitched out because instead of that nice, bold satin stitch that we all really like in our fonts, we're going to have a fill stitch. Well, we all know a fill stitch looks much flatter and doesn't have as much character.
Exactly.
Sometimes that's what you want.
Right.
Sometimes it's not. So you do have the ability, like I said, the font capabilities in this particular brand of software I love. So if I'm specifically going to do fonts, I'm very oftentimes going to be in here because of the flexibility and whatnot in here.
Right.
I really, really like this for fonts. It is not my go-to to do a cut file.
Right.
So there's different things that I use differently, which is why I have more than one software.
Right.
Specifically, what software am I in right now? I am in Brothers PE 11 layout and editing, which is equivalent of Babylock's Palette 11. Again, font, change the font type, play with the font, all of those different things. So there is specifically labeled on here either a number or a TT next to that to tell me whether I'm in a true type font or whether I'm in a built-in.
Yes.
So I'm going to window down here and then open, I'm going to go to Dime just because that's my other. Dime is basically the same as Floriani when it comes to this type of thing.
Now I'm gonna put you on hold. I'll be right back.
So sorry, excuse me. All right, so this is, and I changed the color of that. That looks a little better. All right, so again, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to choose text. I'm going to click in my work field, and I'm going to type in, oop, not there, I'm not, right here. See, I was in the other software just a second ago. My brain's doing that. I'm going to type in 2 type fonts just like I did before, and I'm going to hit apply over here on the right. So now you can see same kind of thing happening. Over here is where I have my text editing tools in this software. Again, Floriani is going to be found in the same place. If you are doing cutting software, so you have Craft and Cut, it's going to be the same kind of thing over here. I think Hatch is similar in this aspect. It's going to look a lot like this. I do not know what, I've never used Embrilliance. I have no clue. So I can't tell you about Embrilliance at all. But I think that's kind of like what we had before where you have a number or a TT, or you have this option. I think those are the two. Where they're located at on the screen might be varying a little bit, but those are the two kind of different ways.
Yeah,
that
they
you're gonna
usually
find
are
this.
all grouped together. So in a little box.
In a little box
in
or
a drop down at the top.
You got it. So we're going to be in this box on the right. I am currently in the text tool, which is the A. So I could pop between different things here, but like I said, I'm in the text. In here, I have the choice to turn on true type font or not true type font. If I click the box, I get a check mark, which tells me I am in the true type font section. And imagine that. I have Arial is the first one that pops up. So, you know, if you're in your Word or whatever word is pretty commonly to have an Arial or some type thing. So you can kind of, your brain will go, yeah, I recognize that. And the drop down here is going to be, again, all of my different fonts.
Yes.
This is a little bit different. I actually don't see the word true here, which you saw in PE or palette.
Right.
I actually see the name of that font in the style of that font.
Yeah.
All right. And to scroll through here to see the different ones, I can click and then I can arrow down, which this is what I do all the time, and scroll through the different options just by hitting the down arrow on my keyboard. So once I've got one highlighted, it's really easy to scroll through a bunch of different things here. So let's talk about that for just a second. What in God's name is that? Right?
Yep.
This sometimes is a part 2 of a font. So instead of letters, when I type in the letter A or the letter B, I get a symbol.
Yes.
So it's kind of like wingdings,
Yep.
but it's designed to coordinate with.
Wingdings, dingbats,
Right.
Yeah, characters. So all kinds of different ways of saying it.
And some fonts will come with extras, quote unquote, and it's another actual font option.
Yep.
So it's not like you type the lowercase a from the regular one. Lowercase a is a lowercase a.
Right.
You need to go into part 2 in this case. And that is then the special symbol, and they're all different. Sometimes it's the same ones repeated, so maybe you get 12 and it just repeats.
Exactly.
but sometimes there literally is 26 different
Yep.
things in there. It just depends. But like if you're looking for that scrolling line or a
Mhm.
little heart or
Mhm.
something like, you can very oftentimes find them. So I've
Right.
got a little watermelon here. I've got a star. I've got a little piece of pizza over here. There's
Yeah.
a banana.
When we did our stabilizer event and I had my laptop bag and I had like a floppy disk on there and a little computer.
You found those
and the
in
Apple,
dingbats or something, right?
I found like a logo type dingbats and that's what I used. Even though those designs were not perfect, they were perfect for what I needed it
Perfect
for.
enough for what you
And-
needed.
Right, and I was able to make them work. I edited a few stitches to
Yep.
make them where I wanted them to be, but that is really cool way of being able to get some cute little characters that you wouldn't normally be able to get. And maybe you're
Absolutely.
just not a digitizer, so
Right.
creating those yourself is not an
Remember
option.
what it was. Oh, it was for the wedding. And
Mhm.
I made reserved signs for the front
Sure.
couple of rows, right? And I wanted a little heart
Mhm.
thing. Well, I couldn't find a heart. I had one of these that was perfect. It was actually a heart font.
Yep.
So all of the extras were all little heart related, and I picked, I don't remember what letters, but it worked absolutely perfectly. So sometimes you just need that little extra something,
Just a
and
little
it's just
something.
right there. So again, not having too many fonts so you actually know what you have
Right.
is helpful, because it took me a hot second to find all that stuff, because I was like, oh, where was
Yeah.
that again?
And if you have, like we talked about printing earlier, if you have a specialty font that just has these types of things,
That would
sometimes
be worth
those are worth
printing out so
printing.
that you know what symbols are where.
Exactly,
for sure.
or saving them to a file that you can reference later, because you don't always know what they are. And depending on what software you are in will depend upon whether or not it shows you. There are some software and like some Windows programs and stuff like that that will actually show you like a little box of what each of the special characters are and how to get to them.
How to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some
for
software
sure.
doesn't do that.
So this is another totally weird aspect of true type fonts, is sometimes you can get some really fun little add-on things in there. So again, using I'm just scrolling, or I can click on that down and then just scroll down to whatever it is. And again, in here, the preview is showing me the name of that, but it's showing me in the type that it would actually look like. So if I wanted kind of a script here, I can see that that's kind of script, and then I can click on it and go, yeah, I don't like that. And so I can go back and I can change those to something else. And you just keep going until
Happy popcorn. That looks cute.
happy popcorn it is. So that is cute. So let's, real quick, let's just make that bigger so that those can see. Isn't happy popcorn cute?
Cute.
And we can also make that look like actual stitches with just a button over here on the side. It is not a solid, there's a solid, a stitch or a realistic view in the other software that we were just in. And sometimes when you scroll out, you actually, or much closer, you get a very different view of what that's going to look like. So it can really, so you can see there's actually thread there instead of just a line. So you can get a little bit better view of what is there. So in this type of system, again, the TT box, you either check that or uncheck it, and then you get different options. So these are all built-ins in this software, and the codes next to that are specific to the type of whatever that's going to be. So these with the letter A are applique fonts that are built into the system. So there still may be some coding over there that codes you to know this one is a this or this is that. The M stands for micro, so it's really small fonts. So you would know if you were trying to do something small. This one has puffy, but I have all of those installed, so that's not super helpful, because if you just bought the program, you wouldn't get all of that either.
Right.
And these are monogram things. So again, there's not necessarily going to be a number. It could have a letter or something next to it, but it will not be that TT type system there. What do we got?
We got a couple questions. So Marie is asking, can you use I think that's supposed to be something
Complex, probably.
fill instead of a satin fill. Sometimes.
It will definitely change the way something looks.
Right.
If I'm using a fill stitch instead of a satin stitch for a font, to use Beth's question, which is right underneath that, I always put an outline around if I have it filled because it gives me a crisp edge.
Right.
A lot of times fill stitches aren't going to be super crisp on the edges.
Right.
Because it's doing this and your starting and stopping points aren't necessarily all going to be really sharp edging.
Yeah.
So I like a running stitch around a fill letter.
Right.
Most of the time I prefer a satin stitch. It's just going to look the cleanest and give me the look that I'm going for. But if it's bigger, then you have to switch that out. Different softwares make that easier than other softwares.
So I think this is a very personal choice.
Yes.
Depending on how you like the look of the stitch and what you're applying it to. There are certain times where maybe having the font without something running around the outside, maybe that fits in with the theme that you have. You know, or again, it just really depends on where you're putting it. The only disadvantage to having the outline stitch is that I can think of is that if you do not have it stabilized well, it will do the fill stitch and then it will come back and it will do that outline stitch,
right?
And it doesn't line up. And a lot of times if you're doing names on a shirt or a sweatshirt or something like that, it's not uncommon for people to not have quite enough stabilizer on there. And then you get kind of like that little ghosting effect and you think there's something wrong with the actual file itself, but it really is just you didn't have enough.
Where everything's stitched.
Yeah, because it's soft and it kind of pulled in. That's kind of one of those like chicken or egg, right?
Which
Design
one caused which?
Or stabilizer. It could be either one.
For sure.
And with true type fonts, it could be either one. It could be that it didn't digitize well.
Yeah.
Or it could be that you don't have enough stabilizer there. But I find that a lot of people don't have enough stabilizer. Like that's why we talk about when we do that, adding that
heavyweight tearaway because
underneath.
It will keep the tunneling from happening. It will help things line up.
Right.
So again, if your goal is to clear, like crisp the edge, and it doesn't line up, you've actually made it look worse.
Right.
So I like the way that looks as long as everything lines up and everything. But that doesn't mean I do it 100% of the time either. So, it's got to be right for the specific project, like you said.
Yeah.
For sure. So there is not an always by any stretch. It's totally dependent upon the project and upon your personal preference. And same goes for the complete fill. It's a personal choice, which one that you would like. So if I wanted this to turn into a fill stitch, it's not as simple as it is in the Brother software. Like what we were just saying, I can't just go up to the top and change the fill.
Right.
It's not the same concept. So right now they are fonts and it doesn't really let me do all of that, but I can break the text up and then I can grab that and then I can convert it to a fill stitch. So can I? Yes. Is it the exact same thing? No. And you can also see that doesn't look so fantastic.
Right.
So it's not always going to be the right thing to do either. And that's the thing when you're altering and in a true type font, more specifically, you don't know what you're going to get. I have seen where it fills in like a big scrolly Y. It fills in the entire Y.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't understand it's supposed to stop. And so it literally fills in like the whole circle of the Y kind of thing, but it wasn't supposed to be a circle of the Y.
Yeah.
So true type fonts can turn into a hot mess if you're trying to go too quickly. So take your time, pay attention to what is there. If you are looking to do artwork, on the other hand, it can definitely be a whole nother thing. So artwork would be what a cut file is going to end up being. So when you are I'm going to come into True Type fonts because this is where I really do a lot of this. So you can
see.
see,
That was a good one.
this was a great choice. You can see it just totally whacked that out, right? But if I want that to then be an artwork piece, it would come out differently. It's not going to be the same. So as artwork, it comes out perfect. All right, so that would be that line around all of those different parts. So, and you can see it's a solid color. It's not stitches. It's just a shape is all that is. So artwork and stitch files will create something completely different using the exact same letters and the exact same words, whether you're stitching or whether you're cutting.
Yep.
So, which is again, that's why I have so many cut files is because, I'm sorry, not cut files, fonts is for the cut files.
Yep.
I like to do real scrolly things. I like to have little detailed pieces like in the A here. It just adds so much without you actually having to do much.
Right.
And so that's where I get all of those. I'm surprised nobody's asked up to this point. We have just a couple minutes left of where else that you could get fonts. So again, if you just Google the name of a font, there's a lot of things will come up. I will say that I have come across some kind of sketchy feeling font file places where I'm like, I'm not downloading anything from the site. I feel like I'm going to blow my computer up if I do that. So please be careful. Don't just download everything under the sun.
Right.
If it sends you to some other link to get something, I wouldn't click. Just FYI. But design bundles is something that I just have a very basic membership for. And basically I get credits every month that I can play with. Obviously I haven't been playing lately because I have a few credits, but this is the font categories. I can go with regular and it would show me just some basic. So here's just a line inside of a block. But to create that on my own, to draw that would have been a pain in the butt.
Right.
So I can click for that and download it, load it in there and create whatever I'm looking for. So I've got different types of regular fonts. I can look at scripty fonts. So this is something like the one I found for the wedding. This one is actually kind of a cool thing. You actually get a couple different things here. So you get the black one behind it, plus the scripty one. So you could double layer something. So sometimes you can see that you get those different options and things that coordinate and work together.
Right. And so just click on that so they can see what you can see.
So we've got this kind of balloon piece behind it. Plus we have this scripty thing that goes on top. And if I had to stab in the dark, I would guess it's probably got even a third thing that had the little scrolly arrows and stuff.
Yep.
That's probably part of like the wingding type piece of that. So this is probably a 3-part download would be my stab in the dark. You would get the puff letter, the script letter. That's a really nice script.
It is. And
look at the little hearts on the eyes.
And the script one would actually probably embroider nice. The puffy one will not.
Right, because your satin stitch is going to be too wide in spots.
It is going to, and it's going to, like on that W and that O, it's going to make those giant satin stitches. They'll just they will not stitch out.
And not only that, but like in the center part of the W, where's it going to cut?
Right.
You know, is it going to try to go all the way across, or is it going to
is.
do a double, or is it going to be actually 3? And it's going to be a hot mess in the middle because it's not going to know what to do with it.
Right. Right. So you do have to just be mindful when you're looking at design things like this that think about how it's going to how stitches would be on there.
Right. Where is it going to fill all of that stuff in?
Right.
So again, this is definitely a, you don't have to have a membership to get things from here. They have a lot of free things as well, but they do have some inexpensive options.
And like font bundles.
They have all kinds of bundles and things like that. So there's free options. There's like there I clicked on free. You can see free fonts.
Yep. And they will also have like commercial licenses available to you.
Yes, and this is the type of place that you could click on whatever happens to be, and it will tell you. So here, premium and corporate license is available for that.
Yep.
So you could actually create and sell with that
Yep.
and use it. So this is, again, design bundles or font bundles. They're the same company. They're just, you're buying a design or you're buying a font.
Yep.
And again, I have a personal membership that I use there because I do enough different crafty things. I alter a lot of things that I buy, but at least it gives me somewhere to start with instead of having to create completely from scratch. Another place that is a membership mostly is Creative Fabrica. I have gotten a lot of really great things from there as well. The nice thing I like about this one and Creative Fabrica is it's individual artists that are supporting. So they are putting out their things, but it's safe.
Right.
And I don't have to worry about when I download something, did I download God knows what with it.
Right.
So I do feel very comfortable with all of those, with those two pieces there. And the font I've never had an issue with. So this is all free.
So Colleen has kind of an advanced question here. When you want to double layer a font, do you have to delete stitches or will it stitch on top of the other font? The answer is yes to both of those. And the real answer would be depends a lot on the base layer of the font.
Right.
If your base layer was a
fill
stitch, you would be able to lay stitches on top of that a lot easier than if you had satin stitches at the bottom and then you tried to lay satin stitches on top or a fill stitch on top. So there are a lot of different options for you when you're looking at about that stuff, but a lot of these questions can't be answered with a simple yes or no, because
it'll
there's
depend on the font
so
individually.
many variables. That's right. You can layer the two pieces on top of each other, and you can kind of start looking at how they're going to stitch. So you can do a replay of how the stitch is going to stitch out to give you a little bit of an idea. But honestly, there's no better answer than experience. So you don't have to do a whole name, but you could do like maybe the first 3 letters of both the base and the part that's going to layer it on something else and see how the layers line up with each other.
I know this sounds really stupid, but the word test has curves. It has crossbars, so you get both directions of stitches. The word test is actually a really good test for seeing what something is going to do in a font.
Right.
Because you get curves, you get angles, you get straight lines going in both directions, and you get kind of like the E, depending upon whether it's capital or lower, you get a lot of different things. So that is, I know it's not, like I said, I know it sounds really stupid, but it does actually, it's what Tony uses because of all of those, he can make sure all of the angles and everything is there. So it is a good word to use, whether it's the first 3 letters or the actually just use the word test and see what it's going to look like.
Right.
I have definitely layered things that I should have not layered. And as long as you're willing to accept those consequences and what it's going to look like, using toppers and things like that is going to make things sit up pretty and not sink into things. But you definitely need to pay attention to where that needle's going because too much in one spot is going to be an issue no matter what you're stitching on. So, the 2 font thing is a really cool thing, but you do have to plan that out and make sure that you're doing it well.
Let's see. Joan would like to know, what software do you recommend for a beginner? I know my answer is whatever software the person that's going to teach you uses is the best software. So depending on whether or not you can come to a place and actually invest the time into learning it, that is the best. And so if coming to us and taking a class or we can certainly do Zoom lessons on software, they're going to be more
basic because we can't see what you're doing.
Well, it's going to be more, here's how you do it. Record the video.
Go play.
Go back
and then call us with questions.
Right.
Because
we can't necessarily see where all of your buttons are on your screen. So that's a little bit harder. But a lecture style Zoom lesson is definitely doable for something like that. But, and the other thing that I always say about software is it's probably 10 times more expensive than you think it should be.
Yes. So one of the things that I guess is maybe a little disappointing is you can't buy a base and then upgrade that base to like a full version of software in most versions these days. They used to have that a little bit more option. Nothing that we have. We have some entry level things, but they only do these things, and then you can't get a discounted version of the full thing and go from here to here. You have to buy the full version of the next one.
Yeah.
So though there is entry level pieces,
Yeah.
to be perfectly blunt, if you can afford the full version, buy the full version and just learn bits and pieces of it at a time.
Right. The only other answer to that would be like the advantage of the Dime software is though while the individual parts are separate, they all work together, and you're only learning once you start learning about how to do this part of the software. When you add another piece of the software, it still works the same. The icons are the same.
Yeah.
As opposed to like buying BES software and
then
going to PE because they're set up completely different. So you do things completely differently. And then the only other advantage of the Dime software is that it is both
Mac compatible
and Windows compatible. So if you ever change, you can get your software can still work on there.
Yeah, and they are the only ones that have a Mac key that allows that to be run on the Mac, and it runs almost exactly like it. I mean, it's not like it's a different program; it's the same program.
Everyone else, you have to either run a separate like Parallels program or partition
which you're
your hard drive.
You're dividing your hard drive, which is not good for your computer, no matter what anybody tells you.
It does. It just doesn't
it's
take
not
the
that
same
it's bad
resources.
for the computer. You're splitting what you have available. So if you split your hard drive, you're splitting everything.
You only have
half of whatever. With your processor, it's divided out to go, and it's not going to be the most beneficial aspect for you. So
right. So we have a couple. I used embroidery in the past. Are you familiar with this? And will it work with my new embroidery machine?
Embird is not something that we've ever used here. I'm familiar with the name of it, and that's about as much as I can tell you about it. Is I've heard of it.
Though most software is compatible.
It's going to be compatible because you can export in any format.
Yeah.
And PES is a very popular and widespread. So it doesn't matter what software you're using, you're going to be able to export the PES with your new machine. As far as our familiarity, unfortunately, it's not one that we use here. So nobody here is going to be able to help you with that individually. Joan. So I'm not sure where you got your Floriani, but we certainly would be happy to try to help you with that, or I would be happy to try to help you with that. If you got that from us, we can certainly set something up and see what we can do to get you moving. Unfortunately, Embrilliance is not something that we do here, so we can't help you with that one either.
No. So this I don't mean this to sound as blunt as it is, but you will never feel comfortable with your software if you do not open your computer at least once a week.
Quite frankly, she's not wrong. So if you don't use it, you will lose it.
And it's not just it's not just the software. You need to open your computer. You need to know how to download. You need to know where your files are. You need to be able
to copy and paste to a USB. All of those things.
When someone tells you to double click, you shouldn't ask if it's a left or a right click. You should know those things already. You need to get that familiar with it, because if you are not, those things will never become easy for you. You will continue to struggle with the software until you don't struggle with the computer. And that is our biggest hurdle for people, is that they only get out their laptop or their software when they're ready to do a
when they
project.
actively need something, which is like 4 times a year, because I just need to edit something, and then I don't even remember how to open that.
Exactly.
I don't know how to get the design even in the software.
Yep.
So the more you can use it, the better it will be every time you are using it.
Right.
So for sure.
The great news, Cindy, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but on the Dime YouTube channel and Facebook group, Ashley, she does a lot of our events for us. She does like a monthly software where she goes through, like, she picks a technique and a software.
Tuesdays?
It's like a Tuesday, yeah.
I think
And
it's
so
on
she
Tuesdays.
does a lot of stuff. It's all on their YouTube channel. You can re-watch it. She's a phenomenal teacher.
She's
She
very,
knows
very
the
good.
software, so she's very fluid in it. It's very frustrating sometimes to be in a software class and have the instructor be like, I don't remember how to do that. Let me just keep pushing buttons, because then you feel like you're not really gaining all of this stuff. But I would definitely go back and rewatch some of those.
Absolutely.
Or
she's a fantastic resource. And anytime we have an event, it usually has some sort of, and all of our Dime events have been virtual for years now, so it's super easy to participate. You can log in and she'll teach, like she said, we usually have Ashley as our instructor, but some sort of software is tied into almost everything that we do. There's some sort of software that's going to back that and support it and make that particular type of something easier. So any of the new events, and even if you don't take it through us, any of those events that you see that are a Dime event are probably going to have some software education in them, which is super helpful too.
Right,
so,
right.
And of course, I don't have any plans to do it right at the moment, but I've certainly thought about trying to do some other software stuff. Right now, the only thing we've had of recent, other than these kinds of things, you know, the hours on Wednesdays, we've done all different types of software, but we do have PE classes that Tucker has taught. And I used to do some Dime things, but it's just time has gotten away. So not to say that it'll never happen in the future, but if we have a software class and you did not buy it from us, usually those classes, depending upon what it is, it might be a free class if you bought your software from us, and there's just a charge if you didn't. But anybody would be welcome to join regardless. So if and when those come up, all of you are certainly welcome to join, whether you bought your software from us or not. There's just either a fee or whatever. So first and third Tuesdays. I thought it was Tuesdays. Good job. Thank you. Computer part is easy.
Yeah.
So the more you use it, the better it gets.
Pick something that you want to do. Maybe go back and do text, but you've got to work on that part of the software until it feels natural. And it takes at least a dozen times of doing something before you build some muscle memory
to
that
what
you
it
can
is.
get over there. And I'm telling you, if you stop doing that and you move on to something else and you don't go back to that text part for several months, when you go back to it,
you're going to start all over again.
You're going to be starting all over again. You haven't been using it long enough to build long-term memory there. And it is amazing how quickly my brain rewrites short-term memory. So I'm like, what? I just did this 3 minutes ago and I don't even remember how I started, because I haven't built any muscle memory to that. And it happens to all of us if we set it aside and we're busy. So, you know, we don't always have the time, but I always tell people, you will never become proficient in your software if you don't put in the time. And sometimes it's hard because we feel frustrated. And when I feel frustrated, I put things down. But I think starting with a smaller thing, like let's do text, or let's make shapes, and let's change the fill type of my shapes. And as you build those skills, then when you go in and you want to draw something or do something, you will then remember, oh, this is how easy it was for me to change the fill type on this particular software, and then do it. And I don't know. I am a PE flunky because
Sorry.
It's totally true. I can open the software and I can save a design and I can do the very basic part of it, but it doesn't work the same way that the software that I used for 20 years worked.
Right.
And I could not get past, for an entire year, I didn't open my other software. I just used PE. And
She grumbled a lot.
I said so many bad words, and I finally decided that
Why am I frustrating myself?
it's not
And
worth it for me. So I would say, Joan, pick the software that you like better and use that software.
Yep.
And stop trying to go back and forth between them, because I don't know about you, but
Well, it's
it's
confusing.
harder.
How it is in one is not anything like it is in another. So I
Yeah.
mean, if it's so similar like Floriani, and there's a lot of things that are very similar in Floriani and Dime. But even them, they've really veered off in how to change the type of stitch is completely different in those two programs. Used to be very similar. It's not anymore. So the screens look the same, but that's getting close to where those things are ending. So like for me, my personal go-to is the Dime. That's the first thing that I open. And then if I'm specifically working on a font and I know that I'm going to want an outline, or I go to PE, and I know enough that I can go in there and get what I want and all of those things. But it is hard. It's like, how do I do that again? Because I don't do all of those things in PE. It happens to everybody. And again, if you don't use it, you will lose it, unfortunately. So have some fun, play, find some really, really cool fonts, and send
us some pictures of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
If you have been getting our emails, Tucker has been doing a Feature Friday, and we'd love to be able to put Monday. Why is it not Feature Friday?
It's Customer Appreciation Monday.
Feature Friday is better. It's Customer
we have
Appreciate Monday.
Customer Appreciation Monday, and we would love to spotlight you. So if you would like to send in some images of what your current project or projects have been,
Make sure you put Feature Friday in the notes
totally do that.
that we do on Monday.
And then you can find it on Monday. But we post it on our socials as well, so everybody will get to see what you're working with. And yes, I have done the varsity font and Dime. It's very cool.
We had a lot of fun with that.
We had a lot of fun. That special effects software, we actually have, I think more than one video on special effects software from Dime. It's a lot of fun. Absolutely love it. So, but yes, please, if you would like to be our next customer spotlight, send us some info of pictures of what you've been doing just to the stitching at LeBou Sewing Center email, which is coming across the bottom of the screen right there.
Julie suggested Model Monday. It rolls off the tongue pretty good.
Send me something, I'll name it whatever they like.
If you want to include what you would like your Model Monday or your Feature Friday to be called,
On Monday.
she will quote it for you when she posts your stuff. So, all right. I know we're running way over. So thank you so much for hanging with us today. We hope that you got some info that you can find helpful and inspiring for you. And we'd love to see what you're working on. So have a great week. We will see you next time.
Thanks for joining.
Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.